Hey yo, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Rap Yard. We got off to a late start. I apologize for that. We had some technical difficulties, but I think we are in business now. So please welcome our guest of honor this evening, Mikey Barslow. Come on. Sorry, my mouse was not working. There we go. Mikey Barslow. Oh, come on.
Hey,
Got long
now
last.
you can still hear me, correct?
Right, and you can hear me. That was the thing.
I can.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. All
I
right.
apologize. I don't know where it lied, but for some reason we couldn't get it going. Sorry for anybody that was tuning in and we're delaying you. We just couldn't get on the same page. We're hearing each other, but you know, we're just gonna. I'll just stick
We're
with
here
this
now.
view because at least we got the communication.
Yeah, we're here now. So let's get into it. You're from New Jersey originally, right?
Yes. Yes.
Raised. Okay. What part?
Monmouth County. I live in a town called Farmingdale, small town. You blink it, you miss, but I'm at the cornerstone of everything where Bruce Springsteen used to live, Freehold. Well, actually, he still lives in Colts Neck, 5 minutes from me. Near the shore, Asbury Park, Freehold, Long Branch, Lakewoods the other way, Jackson. So,
Mm, okay. Well, you'd have to be from Jersey to know about that, I guess. Yeah. But so in close proximity to New York, we had
yeah,
a lot of legendary artists out of New Jersey as well. Redman, uh,
right.
tons.
Yeah, Newark is about half an hour from here.
Okay. So I hope you don't take offense to this, but you're of a certain age like myself where you probably came up, at sort of like the onset of hip hop, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
shortly thereafter. Yep, the late
Okay.
'80s.
Okay. So you said late 80s is when you were like born, or?
Oh no, the late '80s is when I was coming up in it.
I see. Okay, okay. Because you talked a lot about in other interviews I've seen about some of your inspirations and stuff like that. Like who is one of the bigger influences as far as like your style of music?
Um, as far as hip hop goes, I would have to say, oh, there's a bunch, but I would say in my formative years, I would say Chuck D, um, KRS-One. Before that, it was Grandmaster Cass. I looked up to a lot, and then once they came on the scene, it was definitely Native Tongue. Uh, you know, Trap Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, De La Soul.
So all those big like late 80s, early 90s groups,
Yeah,
New York.
and then going into that, there's of course Busta Rhymes, Redman, uh, Lords of the Underground, Naughty by
Right,
Nature.
right, right. Cool. You've said before, and you mentioned to me that you had a pretty big affinity for MC Search. Did you want to go into
Yeah,
that?
yeah, because when we were coming up, and I know there was a lot of because I'm a big hip hop head, and you got to go out there and you got to search it out, and you find that just because they're not in the mainstream, it doesn't mean they don't exist. So a lot of people, you would think that you're the only ones. I was just basically speaking of in a lot of the events that were considered, I guess, I don't know if you consider mainstream events, video music box functions, radio station functions, hip hop functions and barbecues. The only other white MCs I saw was Third Base. Um, every once in a while, you'd see Everlast pop through. And my thing was back then, before Search actually dropped the Cactus album with Third Base and Pete Nice, I saw Search in a bunch of different places, and he was always a cool dude, you know what I mean? Before he made, his fame, he was a cool dude. And at the pinnacle, I met him again. He was a cool dude. And then, after the Third Base thing was done and he had his hand in a lot of other things, he was also a cool dude. So I got a lot of love for him for the support and whatever, because I've said this before too. And I'm not going to get into the whole, like I said before too, I'm not going to get into the whole race thing and race card and white rappers and all that. But from my perspective, everybody would bring up Eminem because obviously he's the biggest, white guy to do the thing and get to the level that he's at.
Yeah.
And everybody would say, well, because he's white, that's how he got there, and this, that, and the other. And all I was ever saying was, I can attest to the fact that as far as the industry is concerned, being white did not help at all. It actually was a hindrance. You know what I mean?
I saw you said in
And
a different interview that it was the other white MCs that were kind of like a hindrance to you progressing with your career as a white
yeah,
artist.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I was saying that you were saying in a different interview that it was other white MCs or other white people in the industry that were kind of a hindrance to you progressing with your career.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like that was the whole thing. And as far as that goes, uh, who I had interaction with, not on a regular basis, but when I saw him, MC Search was never that guy that said, I'm going to be a dick to this other white dude. Because as far as the industry goes, there can only be one white dude, you know what I mean, to really make it big. And it's kind of like that to today, you know what I mean? There can only be one super duper white superstar. And at the time, you see a lot of different people in the underground and, white MCs. And it wasn't really like, unless you came up with them, it really wasn't an embraced thing. It was like, kind of like animosity, you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a whole lot of support. And like I said, I just felt that support from Search, to where he was secure enough in himself, like myself. He was secure in himself and loved hip hop enough to say, you know what? He's just going to be a cool dude regardless. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what happened recently. I was on his live not too long ago. I'm not trying to air that out here, and I don't know what happened. Maybe he was having a bad day, or I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? But we were on his live, and if you know Serge, he's got a good personality. He's always joking around, and if there is anything that goes off kilter, he's the first one to say, "Let's talk it out. I'm not going to jump down your throat because there could be a misunderstanding. Let me figure out what's going on, and then I will react." But not this particular day. This one particular day, it was just like a couple weeks ago. And this was just after, again, I was holding him in the highest regard in interviews and in posts and telling people stories from the past where I used to see him out. He was a cool dude. So I had nothing but good things to say about Search, But then we got in this live and we were talking or whatever, and Search was joking around with a guy that I guess he knew that was in this thing. I didn't know him, but I was just joking around. You know what I mean? And they were like, he does this thing, it's like an auction and you bid on stuff. So he says to this guy, "Hey, guy, why don't you bid on this item?" And the guy was like, not bidding on the item, and Search was like, "Okay, well, whatever." And then Search went on to say what the guy did and how much money the guy made. You know what I mean? So I was joking around, thinking that this was a safe space. It was a joke around space, like Search always kind of portrays, like we joke around, we love each other, it's all love, it's all fun. So I was joking around and I said, "Come on, man, all that money you're making, you can bump that bid up another $5. And Search, like this, went off on me like I killed his mother. Like, you would think that I killed his mother. Like, you know what I mean? And on a sidebar, the guy in question that searched was trying to show his whole group that he was defending, I guess. Me and the dude were talking, and me and the dude were cool. And the dude was even saying to me, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. You know what I mean? And I said, oh, me and you cool. You know I'm joking, right? And the dude was like, yeah, I don't know you. Oh, we're cool. And we're just back and forth. And we were cool. But then Search went from, like I said, he was following me. He sent me the nicest DM, you know, um, just being a nice guy to this particular day, basically saying, not in these words, but basically saying, you're a scumbag. I'm tired of you, Mikey Barslow. We're done. You're cut off. You're out of here. He stopped following me. He kicked me out the live. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, you would think that it was like in 5th grade. And I just don't know to this day. So again, like he said, I tried to reach out to him. I said, yo, my guy, I said, I was just joking. And he goes, nah, you weren't joking. You're throwing salt in the mix and you're being a hater and we don't play that here and this, that, and the other. You don't know that man. You can't talk about what he makes. If he wants to make that type of money, then let him make that type of money. And the dude, while Search was doing that, the dude was basically sending me like question marks. Like, I don't know where this is coming from, but me and you were cool. Yeah. And so he blocked me out. So I don't know what happened with that, but I still stand by my 40 years of being in Search's corner and seeing him on multiple occasions at really big events, which carries over. That's all I will say about the Eminem thing. Everybody, talks about Eminem, and the only thing I'll say about the whole Eminem thing is any MCs that are MCs that were at the top of their game once upon a time, if they had the advantages that Eminem had, because Eminem was signed by the holy trinity of any business, the holy trinity. You couldn't get a better deal. You couldn't get better people in your corner. And when it mattered the most, Eminem was stress-free. So he could sit in his house, and that's what MGK was talking about. He could sit in his house, hone his skills, talk to the PR people to get better at interviews and what he can do and not do to get better accepted personally, not his skills, but his personally. And as far as skills goes, that's what MGK was talking about. He never comes out. That's why he is Eminem today. I've always been in Eminem's corner too, because there could be nobody closer to his life than me. And I'm not going to go into that, but so much things mirror each other, but he has everything, every advantage. So of course he's going to be, on top of that. But when it mattered, he was never outside. He was never outside. He talks about loving hip hop, but any events that mattered to hip hop or that could have mattered to hip hop, to have Eminem come through, regardless of how big he was getting or how big he got, he wasn't outside. And I'm not the only one that took notice of this and was kind of dismayed by it. And I'm not throwing shade at him. It's just a fact for people that have hit me up on this topic and said, well, why do you say this? I say facts. It's not to throw shade. It's to say a lot of MCs, white, black, or Latino, or Chinese, or whatever, if they had Eminem's whole situation, they could be the Eminem today. You know what I mean? And maybe Eminem would be sitting where a lot of us are sitting had he not gotten those advantages. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even like not long ago, my man Chief Rocker, Busy B, said the same thing. At this stage of the game, Eminem is a dope MC. But nobody has ever really seen him outside and he says he loves hip hop, he can love hip hop from a student point of view. But where he was locked up and working on anything he was outside for was to further his career.
Hmm.
People like me and Search and Everlast and Apathy and a lot of other cats, we were outside enjoying hip hop.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? We were out there at the album dropping. You know, when Main Source dropped, when Brand Nubian dropped, when Big Daddy Kane had his big drop, when LL Cool J, like we was there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So a lot of people say, "Oh, he loves hip hop, and I'm not taking that away from him. Obviously, he's a student of the game. He loves the culture. He got where he is in life. You know what I mean? But this was brought up because I've been watching other interviews too, and I noticed other people, you know, are saying kind of the same things I've said forever. You know, it's just one of those, I like to say, coincidental things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like maybe it's a coincidence, but I like to say, well, maybe it's just great minds think alike. Because if you go back in anything that you can find video of me, or even people that were there, I have said things for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and people would criticize me for it and say, why don't you get off your soapbox about this issue or that issue? But it's something I feel strongly about. And this hip hop thing, I feel very strongly about. You know what I mean? And certain things that, you know, are bastardized and diluted and disrespected with the culture, I'm going to speak out on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And sure enough, 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, somebody else will say the exact same thing that I know. It's being said by a superstar. Now you would think that somebody created fire by saying, you know, dropping these gems that I dropped 10 years ago, but because now it's a superstar that said it, you would think that they created the wheel. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the only, that kind of bothers me. But as far as that whole thing, that's where I gave Search a lot of credit too. He was in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people. I'm not just taking, but you brought up Search, but we were in it and we would bump into each other, and he was always in a good mood. I don't know what happened. And I pray that we can have a conversation. I tried and I've been trying, but you know how it goes with this social media. If you're lucky enough to have somebody that once was a peer and you started on this level, and whatever happened in my life, and unfortunately my partner, Jim Center, that was in the group I started in, you know, a lot of people might have rough lives, but I'm telling you, our lives were always the rocky road below and the cloudy skies above. We could not catch a break if we bought a break, where other people could catch some breaks. So that's how we kind of veered off. And somebody like Search or the rest of the people that I look up to, you know, they went on to get notoriety, you know, be it Big Daddy Kane, be it Chuck D, be it KRS-One, you know, they are the legends of today now. And if you are lucky enough to get one of these people, and that's what I was very adamant about, you know, not so much harsh on these legends in hip hop because I don't want to throw shade that way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're lucky enough to have one of these people follow you, it's like an act of God, because most of these people that get to a certain level, now that there is the internet, it's like, you know, and I really kind of went off, you know, on the really huge, big superstars. Yeah, kind of like the Eminems, but like the Taylor Swifts and
Right.
the, you know, that level of superstar. Maybe it's something I'm missing with this technology, but you would think that these celebrities and these superstars would think that they'd be over if they followed you. If they said, hey, Troy, I'm going to follow you, but tomorrow my career would be over, so I'm not going to follow you. I don't understand why they can have 10 million people following them, but they follow zero. But yet they get on the mic and they go, "Oh, I love my fans. I do this for you. Everything I do is for you." If that's the case, the littlest thing you could do for these fans that means everything is to follow them.
Right.
You know, you give them a follow, and it's like, you know, at worst case scenario, would it hurt to if people say, "Well, they got millions of people. How do they know who to follow?" Well, then follow everybody. Is it going to end your career tomorrow? Do you lose money? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
a lot of them don't even run their own social accounts, to be honest. But let's put a pin in that. So you were talking about, you know, people saying things, I guess that you've said before, it's etc. kind of thing. Is this an example of that you sent me?
oh yeah. This is one of those like coincidental things. Like if you go back, I've done like a bunch of interviews, and people could go back and look at it. I was just giving an example because Jadakiss and Raekwon were on, uh, their podcast. I guess I could say it. You know, the Joe and Jada podcast.
Yeah.
And they were going into it and saying basically what I had said 3 years. Well, I've been saying it for 20 years, but I did another interview 3 years ago that I could find footage of, and they're basically saying exactly what I said, that all these people are labeled as hip hop, and it's not hip hop.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Let's check this out. Hold on.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
they putting a lot of shit under our umbrella that don't even go under our umbrella. Like they crediting, they calling people hip hop. That do good music, but it ain't supposed to be over here. And then that gets you the new viewers and the new customers and the new people that want to get into the culture get misconstrued, because you're looking at something that they saying is hip hop album of the year, and it shouldn't even be. It should be in a whole nother.
I want to go too deep into it, but that's how I feel about the game right now. You know what I mean? Anything that niggas say, we supposed to just credit it. We supposed to just co-sign it. Oh, like seriously? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. And back to what you were saying about all I was trying to do, not hating on the generation that's here today. My thing is just like, all of us is man's man niggas. So it's like, if we don't feel that way, you can't sell me that. You know what I mean? And I just feel like a lot of times we get sold on shit because it's a vanity move for everybody. It's, yo, I did it first, or yo, this or whatever, or putting a lot of shit to be shit that it ain't. It really ain't. Now look at it like this. Like in rock music, you see how they separate shit. Yo, this is punk rock. Yo, this is hardcore metal. This is this is that. But it's all under the...
Make it all work.
It's all under the thing of rock music.
So what part of that, what had you said previously?
Well, it was after that. It was built into that. Like right after he says it, I put it. I infused my clip.
Oh, okay.
That shows what I had said. It was kind of like word for word.
Okay. Well, let's see that.
So I just feel like...
Yeah, let's get to
yo, we be piling shit all up in there and calling it this and calling it that when it really ain't that. So if I was to do something, not to cut you, if I was to do something that was outside my element, I might as well be outside with no clothes on and allowing, whatever somebody else is dictating to be what it is, when I know that that's not what it is. And my thing is that do your thing. Shout out all the young niggas, because one thing about me, I want you to get money, man. Because hip-hop saved a lot of lives, my nigga. Facts. You know what I mean? And we turned the economy up into a whole different stratosphere.
You know what I mean? So it's not about me, not to get off track here. It's not about the whole mumble. I know everybody's that mumble rap and this, that, and that. I don't care what you do and how you make your money, that's fine. But the bottom line is you gotta have a respect for the culture that you're making money in.
So get money. Do what you do. Get money. But stop calling everything fucking hip-hop, man.
So if you want to go ahead and call everybody that comes down the pike rappers, then fine. But don't throw hip-hop into something that is not hip-hop, because it ain't. And I'll say that, and I'll look you in the eye. all you rappers out there that don't know the difference between Kool Herc and Kool Mo D, you are not hip hop.
You know what I'm saying? Because everything ain't hip hop. You know, you might be ill at what your technique is. You know what I'm saying? But yo, that might not just be hip hop. That's not enough to be like, yo, all right, yo, you get the fucking
The shit
on your neck.
All right. So yeah, I get it. That's the
Yeah, and then that's just the where I got the clip from. It's on YouTube. They can go to it, Mikey Barslow in the spotlight, and there's a bunch of stuff that has been said. You know, just in that alone, that is being said like every other day now. But I'm glad to hear
Raekwon.
I was gonna say Raekwon and Jadakiss, you know, bringing it to light, because obviously in this industry, you know, the underdogs that rep the culture are still kept in the dark. You know what I'm saying? We're not given a voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the superstars, because that's the way it's always been with the industry. They prioritize, for the most part, they prioritize talent. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they prioritize popularity over the talent and a bag over record the culture. Luckily, the winds of change are kind of whipping around, and now the narrative and the conversations are changing, you know, with everything Nas is doing with Mass Appeal. Even on the West Coast, they got the movement Be Real and Tash, Alcoholics, Digital Underground. There's a whole movement where all those rappers that you and I and a lot of other people love, they're getting the shine again. And all these, you know, trending listers, to be nice, these trending listers that don't know Queen Latifah from Chirac, they're kind of getting pushed back out of the conversation a little bit more. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, you know, I think hip hop is such a well guarded part of the culture. It's part of American culture, really. It's the bigger part of American culture than almost anything. They say baseball and apple pie, right? But hip hop is like so American, and it's
yes,
so well protected and guarded by the people that hold it closest to them. You know, which is good. But then it gets to a point where it's like, you know, you have younger people doing different things with it, and you know, people like Raekwon was saying, you know, you can't call that hip hop. But that divide happened a long time ago. You recall Pimp C saying, "We don't make hip hop, we make country rap tunes." And so you can kind of identify it by sound somewhat, but it's also like some people associate the hip hop with something that's in the past. If that makes sense. So, you know, it's
yeah. Well, I think what we were kind of talking about, damn it, is that everything, all
mhm,
these all these mumble rappers, all these trending rappers, they're not calling it trending rap. They're calling it hip hop. You know what I mean?
a
And
lot of
that's the problem, you know, and it's everybody. And that's why in that clip it went on a little more. I said it needs to go with, you know, the people up on high to go to MTV and VH1 and BET and say exactly what Raekwon was saying and what I said previously, that you need to have whole new categories. You need to, you know, stop calling everything that happens with these trending rappers saying, oh, and this and that and hip hop. No, say rap, say and trending rapper this or that. Because, like you said, the people that do love hip hop and hold it dear, deep down, you know, they have a feeling like, yo, this dude could care less about who built it, who came before them. They
uh,
got no respect. They have no knowledge. And yet they're making money in this culture, which is bad enough. But now they're going to strip the name and call them hip hop artists as well. You know what I mean? So,
I mean,
you
I
know,
think
that's that.
I think the only people that are calling, I mean, I guess I could take a wild guess at, Sexy Red, let's say, and no shade on Sexy Red, but, like, I don't think that anybody's calling that hip hop except for maybe, like, some really, whitewashed, like, big labels that don't have like, they just call it urban, like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I've
But
heard I've heard Hot 97. I've heard all the radio stations, Double XL, The Source. They do lump her in and call it hip hop, and it's sad.
and I see that there's subcategories to it too, like, there's, like, rage rap, there's, like, punk rap, there's different regions, there's different age groups, so
Right.
I do see that there are subgenres to it, so,
And
um
I agree with, see, I agree 100% with what you just said. 100% I agree with you. And that's what we were saying in those clips. If they want to call it, because obviously, there's four elements of hip hop. You know what I mean? And one of the elements is emceeing. Out of emceeing, a subgenre is rap. You know what I mean? Actually rapping. You know what I mean? And out of that, there's even further subcategories, like you said, the rage rap, the killer rap. So if they wanted to say trending rapper this and trending rapper that, technically that's the case. But the artists themselves are not hip hop unless they acknowledge, yes, this is how I came about on this food chain, on this family tree. You know what I mean? But
who gets to make that
it's,
decision, you know? Is there, like, a panel or something of,
what's that?
who gets to make that decision?
Well, I would think that, it would be cool if, and there is a lot of people that are saying it, it's just that the industry just doesn't stop doing it. And because everybody, and not that, again, we say this not to throw shade, but not to throw shade because there's been so much, disrespect for the culture that nobody's really trying to rock that boat. I think KRS-One is probably one of the people that will stand up and say, absolutely not. That is absolutely not hip hop. And he's not concerned. And there's others like him, but I'm just giving him as an example, that says absolutely not. This is not hip hop. We need to stop embracing this as hip hop. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Even when the whole thing went down with the Grammys and the 50-year, celebration, you
mhm.
know, um, and I said it, and then I heard KRS-One say it, which again made me feel like great minds think alike. Like that was a great celebration. It was put together by a lot of great hip hop artists. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
I love the Roots. I love Black Thought. I love Questlove. He was behind that. LL Cool J. He was behind it. And some people say, well, who are you to say when LL Cool J is saying this? But there's some people that are up there, and at this point, they're making their money. They're never gonna get knocked down. Like a lot of the, forefathers, the people that built this for
mhm.
years, they couldn't even get a show. Crash
Yeah,
Crew, Cold Crush, MC Shan. I mean,
right,
basically the whole Juice Crew. They could get shows, but not like when it was the Hip Hop 50, whole thing. That opened the door for a lot of people to eat. And now, once it opened up and a lot of the main people kind of had the light bulb go off, now a lot of people are still eating, off of that. But I agree with what KRS-One was saying. You kind of said it, along those lines at the same time. It was kind of a day late and a dollar short for the Grammys to acknowledge hip hop just because it was the 50th anniversary. You know what I mean?
yeah.
When how many years have you seen hip hop artists that had the greatest universal hip hop album by hip hop purists that know what hip hop is, and they were snubbed day in and day out of these Grammys? Now they have this celebration, and my thing was this, which I caught a little bit of heat for. because I did another interview and I kind of said it then, and I'll repeat myself now. At the Hip Hop 50, it would be nice to get everybody in there and have a sprinkling of hip hop artists from the beginning up till, the Hip Hop 50th thing, and that would have been cool. But I said, the Migos? Really? You got the Migos on the Hip Hop 50th celebration. You couldn't squeeze in another hip hop group or artist that was closer to the time period that they were trying to say the Migos came out. You couldn't, and you had, I forget who the girl was, and again, no shade, but there's no way that a Cardi B or a Glorilla should have been on that stage over,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
an MC Shao Rock or Roxanne Shante or MC
Now,
Light or
I will
what I
say,
mean?
yeah, okay. I will say this, that they did a that was after Takeoff died. I had to check my sources. So the other member of Migos. So it was a tribute to him. But I get your point. In favor of, like, instead of bringing on a legend, like you mentioned, people that are lesser known nowadays, but people that help build the foundation of hip hop, why not give them the floor or the stage? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Especially because up until then, most of them were forgotten. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and and I'm not putting myself in their boat, but because my life is my life, my record deals were my record deals, my devastating events were my devastating events. My getting blackballed was me getting blackballed. So my life is my life. So I'm not comparing that. But the results were the same. You know what I mean? Even though if all that didn't happen and I at least had a fair shake in life, maybe I would have been one of the names that you would mention and say, oh yeah, this guy, that guy, or just a mere mention of Two Weary Travelers, or I used to go by Funky Hobo #1. People would say, oh yeah, and I'm not talking about the legends that were there that remember me, that have been showing me a lot of love. And again, I always say it, God bless every one of them that have, said nice things, done videos, done drops, whatever. But there was a lot of people like us that our hip hop history was omitted. You know what I mean? Hip hop historians know, supporters know, even a lot of, the legends that could say, yeah, I can vouch for that. They know, but the world doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like, arguably, me and my boy were the first biracial MC hip hop duo that was backed by a major label. But because we never became superstars, it's like anything in American history or Black history or whatever. If those people never became famous, you wouldn't know their inventions. You wouldn't know their creations or the stuff that they did for everyday, use or knowledge or, whatever. So, a lot of those people were just as snubbed as we were. So those people should have been on that. I'm saying those people should have been on that stage. And especially because I've never seen it, where they gave any homage to hip hop. It would just seem like they were more of the groups that were eating off of the backs of others, but not acknowledging the people. As a matter of fact, even, there was interviews with the Migos where they actually said, and maybe they thought it was just an off comment or whatever. But when they were talking about groups like Run DMC and EPMD, and they were like, yeah, but they can't even hold a candle to what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's getting your bravado up and being braggadocious, which is hip hop. And then there's just being straight out disrespectful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wanna play a snippet of this interview at the BET Awards of, Migos with Joe Budden in attendance. It's actually pretty funny, funny or sad depending on who you ask.
Bro,
Yeah.
with you being left off bad and bougie.
I ain't left off bad and bougie. You think I'm left off bad and bougie?
Say again?
You say I'm left off bad and bougie?
What'd you say?
You say I'm left off bad and bougie?
Yeah.
Do it look like I'm left off bad and bougie?
What'd you say?
Do it look like I'm left off bad and bougie?
Nah. I mean, that's one thing I like about the group. Because ever since when you were in jail, even though you might see one or the other, y'all move as a collective.
All right, we got to wrap this up, though.
My bad. I be trying to jump.
I couldn't
wrap
hear
it up
anything
then.
over there too. Close it.
Close it.
Hey, listen, man. I wish I could talk to the Migos longer, man. It's one of my favorite groups. I've been covering for so long. I'm glad they succeeded, man.
Hey man, you guys are nominated tonight. Have a good show.
Joe Budden's the best. Yeah, R.I.P. Takeoff. All right. Come on.
You know, rest in peace to him, though, man. That's just he was just way too young to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as the dude goes, I don't know much about him. You know what I mean? But you know,
Well, you know,
I
think
was
that's an
saddened
example.
by yet another young man cut down. You know,
Mhm.
and it's sad. You know,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like I have Triple X behind me here. So a lot of people would not consider that hip hop. I don't think I would consider that hip hop. Does that mean he's not part of the culture? I don't think so. I think he's part of it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Any of it? I said that behind me here, I have a painting of Triple X, XXX Tentacion, right?
Right.
So a lot of people would not consider that hip hop. And
Okay.
obviously, I wouldn't consider that hip hop. But I think he's part of the culture. Rap culture, I
Right.
guess.
Rap, I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, he's rap technically is part of the culture, but to call him hip hop and I don't know nothing about him, so I'm not going to speak about him. You know what I mean? But if he, like I stand by what I said, if he don't know the difference between at the very basic level,
Just know
he
your
don't know the
history.
difference. What's that?
Yeah. Know your history.
A little bit. I'm not saying that these young guys owe it to anybody to sit there and study like they're trying to get a bachelor's degree. But what I'm saying is, with the amount of money that they're making and taking the jets and flying the jets, if you've got time to stick racks of money in my face on Instagram every 5 seconds and these stupid sexualized S&M, I don't even want to what you call videos, then you got time to pick up a book and read about the culture, at least to say, okay, now what I do is rap. Now, technically, rap falls under emceeing. Now, who built that? Who built emceeing to make me be able to take these jets and to put these racks of money in people's faces? Because at the very littlest level, that would at least get people like me off their backs, you know, for saying like, listen, man, at least show some respect,
Yeah,
you know, but you know, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying that they got to they don't got to do collabs. They don't got to go, if they don't like LL Cool J, they don't got to go buy LL Cool J CDs to make somebody like me happy. But they at least, at the very basic level, got to know their history. You know what I mean? Or themselves and their PR people tell them, stop calling us hip hop. We're catching too much heat.
Yeah. So, as to your group that you were in, their duo, the Two Weary Travelers, is you and Jim Sinner, right?
Correct.
Where is he now?
He's out. He lives near me, Long Branch, about 20 minutes away. We met in college. You know, we did our Two Weary Travelers thing. We're always intertwined. Obviously, we're friends or whatever. Life kind of takes us in different directions and whatever. And you know, he helps me with my music here and there. But
so he still does music.
He's basically got to a point where he was done with doing his music. You know what I mean? Like he
Mhm.
just does it for fun. Like because we were literally like I can't even tell you how bad we were screwed over in this industry, man. Like
Yeah.
you know.
Uh,
And this right here, I guess this clip that you got right there, that was actually to let you know how bad we were screwed. This was our first single. And to let you
okay.
know how bad we were screwed over, that single alone took 4 years to get released because of some personal reasons with the label and who they actually were, and they didn't want no spotlight on them, so to speak. So, but this was our first single that we put out.
Maybe we can get into that in just a second. Yeah, about what happened there. Hold on. What year was this? What year was this?
This right here dropped at the beginning of '94.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's see.
Now I'ma start it off with the cheeky trap flavor. It's time to play more and power up the mic saver. The way I be rocking, I could probably make the speakers pop with more bass in my voice than this funky pumping beat got. Because I kiss the back grammar, so when I grab the mic, just say uh-oh, like hammer. Especially when I'm about to drop shit. And since I'm funky as hell, I wear it older eating that one kid. I'm up and rocking from the land of the lost boys. But soft enough to let your girl bring me joy. So bust the lingerie, I love it when they look stunning. I'm what I eat, so I know I'll be nothing, honey. And then I'll get back to rhyming over fat tracks. Brothers on my style, so you know who's cool like that. Now here we come with yet another fat song. You wanna see the party jump? Tell them to put the jam on. The jam is on, the jam is on.
Mandatory copyright pause.
What's that?
I said a mandatory copyright pause break. If I pause every so often, it
Oh,
helps.
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just gonna mention this is very 90s. Very 90s.
You made me a little nervous. I thought you were saying like our connection just went, and I'm going, oh no.
No. Okay. No.
Shazam! Blow your mind, so I'm a real mind blower with my high pitched voice. I guess you already know her, who I am. Damn, I'm not Cam, cause the trap I am, and on the jam I sing. Cause it's on, like a bad on the pips. When she got the drip, you can drop the back stick, baby. Cause it's all you need, but without a trap cap, I plant my seeds and you feel the dream. Whoa, here comes a homer. My stick's so big, I got to flip it on my shoulder when I scrams from the DL. Perks just cause we sell just enough records to be local town stars. But I never let it go for enough to swell the dome. Cause just like Cap, I get left home alone. So I keep the level heading, folks, the fatty addy bone. Drove this trap flow a linger cause this jam is up. The jam is on.
Funky fresh.
Yeah. We were just that was getting into our fun phase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was when we first were together, and I've said this and I'll tell you, we first met in '89. And I was actually plugging around, knocking on doors in New York even before that. You know what I mean? And then we got to college, and I was the only white dude in the Black Student Union, and then he was in the EOF, and we used to do a lot of functions together. So
Why were you in the Black Student Union? I'm just curious.
What's that?
You said you were in the Black Student Union?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was into Black history. I was into learning real history. Like I said, it goes back to everything in society that you look at. Most of it was created by Black people that were shafted out of their creations, right down to like the light bulb, comb, the traffic lights. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And some white dude took their invention, and if they didn't like it, they'd be hanging from a tree. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to know like more about history, because in high school, I'll make this story real short. My mom drove me to North Carolina in high school from New Jersey. And it was very, very racist down there, you know, especially when you got this, you know, northern, you know, black loving Yankee coming down there that they weren't having it, you know, and dressed the way I was dressed, you know, kind of a lot like, you know, and right off the bat, I was a target, you know what I mean? But I was still cool with everybody, but they took it out on me. So I was jumped every day, you know. At the very end of it, you know, I had, you know, little crosses burning my yard, you know what I mean? So when you get stuff like that happening to you, you already want to know, and you see the movies and you hear what's going on and you know about the civil rights movement and whatever. And my family was always in support of the civil rights movement and, you know, whatever. But when something like that happens, you want to know everything. You want to uncover every fact. You want to know everything you can. So that just carried on. When I moved back, I finished out high school. And when I got into college, you know, I wanted to, you know, be a part of something. And these two organizations were doing a lot for, you know, like I said in the one thing, there was, and it's an all the time thing, but it just seemed like in the mid to late 80s, it seemed like there was a black dude getting killed like every day. It seemed like it was every day, you know. So we were, you know, protesting that, and then there was apartheid, and then there was a lot of people, you know, that were unjustly locked up, you know, overseas, like Mandela. So we were protesting all that. So that's what those organizations did. And that's when we met. And then from there, you know, we got our record deal, and Big Daddy Kane's manager actually, I'll say for the sake of the tape, was loosely cool with some of the people at the label. And those people at the label wanted to help the people at the label. So they said, hey, we got this, you know, white and black guy that we want to see succeed. It hasn't been done before. So they were thinking of that we were talented, but they were thinking of the gimmick aspect. You know what I mean? Hey, we got this white and black guy. Let's capitalize, you know?
Right.
And so we got in and we met Khalis Bayan, which was the founder of Kool and the Gang. He was our first major producer. And again, to shorten the story, just to give you an idea of how much we were screwed, every time we would get with a producer, in this case, let's say Khalis Bayan, may he rest in peace, we would do an album with him. You know what I mean? And then he would go to the label and say, hey, man, we just got to put some finishing touches on, whatever. I'm going to put my people on it. And they would walk all over his people. Then eventually they wouldn't pay them. So every time that would happen, we would finish an album and the producers could actually walk with our album. You know what I mean? So we recorded an album, they'd walk with it. Then we get somebody else. We'd do an album, wouldn't get paid. They would get threatened or whatever. They'd walk with the album. And so there's like 4 albums in the world right off the bat between that time period we were stuck there, you know, and we found out, you know, later that, you know, the label was, you know, as my man Jim Sinner said in his excerpts, because he did, you know, I did the thing in the spotlight, which gave a lot of our history and my history. He did the beginnings of our history and kind of let in on how the label was. And every person outside of our little world, you know, called those people unscrupulous and unsavory characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where years later, and I'm not going to point any fingers, whatever, when the Gotti trial hit the TV, there was a lot of people that were affiliated, mentioned in that trial. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why, you know, the light bulbs went off and we couldn't figure out how we would do these albums and there'd be celebrities, because this, you know, or this, I'm trying to say it, you know, without, you know, saying it. These people that we were involved with the record label, the production company, whatever you want to call it, the record studio, it was the top recording studio on the East Coast because they recorded a lot of celebrity people. Cher recorded there. Madonna's people recorded there. I mean, I was blazing it up with Skid Row. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, you know, so, but they never feared the recording studio and making money that way because recording studios generally are not in the news. You know what I mean? Even if celebrities are recording there, it's not in the news. But if we were to ever make it, now the publicity gets thrown on the label, on everybody involved, and they just didn't want that publicity. But they didn't let us know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just kept us in chains for 6 or 7 years. You know what I mean? First,
way
it
too.
was signing one record label, you know, and then a couple new players were brought in, making promises of a better day, dangling the carrot of even different celebrities like my man Cool Rock from the Fat Boys. You know, big ups to Cool Rock. You know what I'm saying? You know, so now he was, you know, on our label for the re-up, you know, the re-signing. So we said, oh, this is going to be good this time. Now they're going to do it right. And then they were getting other producers, that they were in House Party 3, some of our producers, you know, the Ross Posse, you know, DJ Scratch came down to the facility. People that were down with Heavy D's camp came down. So people that we respected and we loved were now coming in, and they were trying to set us up with more hip hop producers that were in the grind. You know what I mean? And so we thought we re-signed again, only to get screwed for another few years. You know what I mean? So that was, you know, a big part of our lives. So when we started to go back to, you know, how that video was fun, when we started, a lot of the songs that we started doing at first, 3 or 4 of them, you know, at least, like, you know, and then there was the Easter eggs dropped all the time, and other songs were like these pro-black songs and conscious songs. And then we got into what we created. We called it Travstract, which is kind of like, you know, our version of what, you know, Tribe Called Quest started doing and Fushnikin started doing, like where they would, you know, throw random dope lines that people could familiarize themselves with, whether it's movies or cartoons, but they might go from one bar about these cartoons to another bar, you know, compared it to, Scarface, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean? So we went for that, and that's where we stayed in that mode for a long time, you know, that fun Travstract mode. And then it just got to a point where once we signed that second contract and it was going nowhere, in our contract, we could not be sued for producing. My man Sinner said, I'm done. And then I said, well, I got my man around the way, King Lamik. I'm going to produce this cat. You know what I mean? So we started Boxcar Productions and started our own record label they could have no say in. And I started producing for people around the way, namely King Lamik. And we actually created 6 songs on him, an EP, that, to be honest with you, that was like our version of Illmatic. You know what I mean? Nas's Illmatic. like this was the dopest. Like King Lameek, everything about him, you know what I'm saying? And this was the rhymes he wrote and his style. Everything came about before Nas was even known about. You know what I mean? It just so happened, like I said, you know, people got talent, people have skills, people develop their own things with the way they live. And, you know, Lau was living here in Jersey, Nas was up there in Queensbridge, but it was kind of the same environment, but two different locations, you know what I mean? So that's where I guess the subject matter kind of was similar, but it was incredible, like, you know, and so we just started shopping him around, you know, going to the city and, you know, knocking on doors and, you know, back when, you know, you actually had to knock on doors and there was no internet, you know what I mean? So you had to be seen. Like people nowadays say, hey, we outside. And technically, I guess you don't really have to be outside. It's good to be outside, but you don't got to be outside. Back then, you had to be out or nobody would know you. Because the only way people would know about you if you weren't, I call it the cassette carrier pigeon. Back then, you know, instead of somebody saying, hey, Troy, I got this song, I got this, I'm going to send it to you. And in 2 seconds, you got it. We would have to make a cassette copy, and then I would give you a cassette copy. You would dub the cassette, then you'd give it to somebody else who might dub it. And that's the way we did it, you know, back then. And so that's the way we did it. And so Sinner did help me with that. He's always been there to have my back and help me with this and help me with that and just to be friends. But as far as when I went solo, because I wanted to do after the Lameek thing, and you know, a couple of the deals.
Can you spell that, King Lameek? How do you spell that?
Yeah, KINGLAMEEK. He's actually you know, he's on the latest single I did, Rich Man's World. I got him on that because I wanted to do a track with, you know, underdog MCs from Jersey, you know, and these are the cats that I wanted to do a track with. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna get Free on Flows, which I did a couple other songs, King Lameek, which I did another song. Me and him did a song, and Sinner called Maintain or Survive. And we called Rich Man's World. A lot of people were calling it the 2024 Rich Maintain or Survive because of the subject matter. So he was on that. And, you know, Sinner helped me, you know, pretty much all along the way. You know what I mean? And then, but when I went solo, I did that because I wanted to create a hip hop album, but be diverse with it. You know, like even if you saw the first thing that I dropped which everybody can get on all the music platforms, it's Funky Hobo #1, and the EP or the maxi single, whatever you want to call it, it was called It's a Rap. And the first track was like an R&B track, and then another track was a boom bap, you know, kind of in your face kind of track, and then the last track was like a reggae track. You know what I mean? And so I had that diversity where Sinner was not trying to go to certain genres, you know, that I was willing to go. You know, me and him have a lot similar tastes, but we also have different tastes. And he was like, you know, you know, if something pops, I know you got me, but I'm not trying to get into another contract where somebody, you know, puts me in chains again. I'd rather just do what I'm doing. And if somebody hears it, they hear it. And then lo and behold, like it was, you know, a few years after that, then the internet started popping. And, you know, then we were able to, you know, get a little bit more traction.
Yeah. So this looks like it's what is this, your first album, solo album?
Yeah, that was my first solo release. It wasn't my first solo song
Okay.
that didn't make it on there. It was my first solo release.
I gotcha. Okay. That's a wrap. Let's play a snippet of that.
Well, that's You Don't Know Me.
You don't know me and you don't know my style. You don't. See, y'all think you know me. You don't know me and you don't know my style. Just remember this. You don't. I let you see what I want you to see. I let you know what I want you to know about me. You don't know me and you don't know my style. Just because I always have a smile on my face don't mean I won't bring about the end of your days. I don't put my dark side on public display. Please believe it's twisted in there. Ask my man Jay. All you know about me's I'm Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky, which is just how I want it until you fuck me. You know what they say about the quietest one. When you do them dirty, they can be the wildest one. And when you pull that flip, you got me vexed like X. I'ma write it on your tombstone in big bold text. This was a stupid motherfucker right here that got what he deserved, so save your tears.
So what year was this? This came out?
That escapes me. Maybe 97, maybe?
Okay.
Is that 97?
Let me minimize it.
Actually, I got one right here. Let me see.
2004.
Oh, 2004. Huh.
This could be a re-release. Sometimes it's not always correct.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I started recording a lot of stuff. I guess it was like the end of the 90s. So I don't know if these, to be honest with you, that's where my memory fails me. I don't know if these were some of those tracks or not. And then by the time we got out of our contract, that's probably what it was. By the time we got out of our contracts and I made sure that I was, crystal clear, and we, set up the, the label and all the stuff that we had to do. So yeah, it could have very well been, 2004.
Okay, I got you. By the time you go through all the red tape and stuff.
Yeah, by the time.
Sorry.
And that track right there, like I said, It's a Rap is more like, one of those songs like a breakup song, and it's got like that R&B singing. I got my man Lou. He was singing on that. So that was the smooth song. This song right here, actually, a couple MMA fighters and boxers actually walked out to it. Like they felt like this was that track that gave them that energy. So they asked me if they could walk out to it. So I thought that was pretty dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's always a big boost, right?
Especially because the energy on that track, I always felt like, MMA, boxing, it had that aggressive vibe,
Yeah, I can see that. All right, let's play a little.
Shoulder for years and years. When I find you, I'ma carry out your fears. You think I won't? You've been living life in denial. Cause you don't know me and you don't know my style. You don't know me and you don't know my style. You don't. Where that they go, they got a bulletproof vest. Talking, I'll do the damn thing. I'm the hardest of the hard. Then hang with the gang of security guards. But not I. No guns, no vest on my chest. No security guards to protect my life and assets. I ain't got a damn thing, and my life ain't worth shit. You want it that bad? Come and get it.
Whatever. What about your kid? You don't really wanna die.
I'm worth a lot more than damn dead than alive. I wouldn't be around to watch him grow, but it's all about the bling these days. You think my dog.
Yeah, you definitely have like a distinctive voice, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. And also this project and the recording thereof it was also coming out of my blackball period. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, we kind of glazed over that. What happened in your blackball period? How did that happen?
And I'm gonna, and this is the story that I'm gonna kind of glaze over, other than what you asked me or what you want to know. Basically, long story short, you know what I'm saying? When I found out, about Eminem, it was during a period of time where now I found out when I was going here and there, other people have heard about Eminem. And remember what I told you about there can only be one white dude. And when somebody has been heard of, even through tapes being shuffled around, you know, when you get in ciphers, people compare you. You know, they'll say, oh, he's better than the other white boy. Nah, the other white boy's better than that white boy. And that's the way it was. So I always was wondering about M, but remember, before the internet, you really couldn't just say, hey, whatever he had going on before Dr. Dre and all that, you really didn't know unless you were outside and got somebody to hand you a copy of it. So I found out that he was, messing with these dudes from up north called the Outsiders.
Yeah.
And so I said, look, I'd like to find out what's going on. I heard he's nice and this, that, and the other, because I'm about embracing all hip hop artists that are real hip hop artists. And if for no other reason, everybody wants to be that guy to support the next guy. Even if you can't win, I'd like to see you win. That's the way I've always been. But unfortunately, there was a lot of white dudes that A, were a crab in the barrel, and number two, if they weren't that, they were a gimmick. You could tell clearly that they were, a gimmicky, and I from the door loved hip hop to my core, and I didn't want to embrace or support anybody that didn't embrace the culture. So I wanted to know from Eminem, is this dude for real or is he for fake? So when we would go out and we'd go whatever, we'd hear, oh, he's over here. He's at the Lyricist Lounge. He's at this recording studio. He's recording with Pace One today or tomorrow at this studio. So we would kind of make up, but we were always a day late and $1 short. And that was cool. So I finally, basically, long story short, I released a track, to get Eminem's attention, called Inquiring Mind. Well, the first version of Inquiring Minds I recorded, and I was like sitting on it for a long time. Then I found out that he was signed to Dre, he was putting out there, and the interviews that I was watching, and like I said, it could have been inexperienced, it could have been a young man with a lot of money that was just saying whatever, and the last thing on his mind was to give the speech that he gave 30 years later at the Rock and Roll Hall speech, you know what I mean? So anything, and maybe people say I take it too seriously. I even said it on one of my songs. They said, hey, man, get off your soapbox, man. Like, everything doesn't got to be about the culture and you, like, the upholder of the culture. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that. I just would like to have a conversation. So finally I released Inquiring Minds, which was, arguably one of the first, if not the first, Eminem diss track.
I think I have it pulled. Is this it?
Inquiring Minds? Yeah.
Okay. Because I got to hear this.
And basically, it wasn't really even a diss track. Some of the language in it, you can't help but use the language that would get his attention. But I didn't mean it as that. And I stand on it today, regardless of the fact that, this one came and went. So when this one was out in the street, everybody was like, it was in a lot of cars. It was in a lot of hoods. It was a lot of people putting it on mixtapes. This was in a lot of places. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was only on cassette. And I think I might have just started putting it on CDs. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was everywhere. And it was burning up the streets. So I said, wow, this is dope. Everybody's loving this shit. But I still didn't get his attention with it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of other people that surrounded his circles heard it and said, yo, this dude is nasty. Like, talking about me, yo, that dude is nasty. And I used to deal with a lot of guys, in my, whole circle. And they were like, yo, he would kill that dude. Like they were pitting me and Eminem against each other, whatever. And that's not my intention. If you listen to the hook on this, it was basically saying questions need to be answered. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm reaching out because in my circle, people heard Eminem's song came out and it was like a gimmicky type of thing, you know? Hi, my name is. I thought it was dope. I thought it was clever. Was it gimmicky? Yeah, everything about Eminem was gimmicky when he came out. Of course it was.
Right.
He could have came out with just straight street bars and seen how that, but everything was a gimmick with him when he came out. And he can't even say that it wasn't. I'm not throwing shade. Again, it's a fact. He did that whole put your mother in the trunk and kill your mother. I mean, put your girlfriend in the trunk and I'll give him credit for starting that whole movement, that frat boy rap of white boys that come out and say whatever to try to get your attention or whatever. But did he have skills? Absolutely. But that's what this song was saying. Hey, I'm reaching out to you. I'd like to talk to you. Our lives are very similar. I really do love 50 Cent, man. You did a good thing putting him out, you know, but this was out in the streets for like 6 months or so, pretty heavily, you know, and then nothing happened. So I let it die down. I finished kind of recording what I was recording. And then I started dealing with Eminem's record label. I said, hey, if you can't beat him, join him. And then maybe I could talk to him that way. So I had a way of back in the day, and Angie Martinez gave me a big up for my demo game. My demo game was nice. You know what I mean? Like the way that I would send my demo out and the way I would get people's attention at the record labels, it was pretty nice, you know? But so I got in with Shady Records, and me and Dude were talking, one of the guys that were doing A&R up there. We were talking for about 4 months. We were going back and forth. I was sending him a track. He said, yo, that's dope. I'd send him a picture. He'd say, yo, this dude, you got dreadlocks. So this dude is unique. You know, he looks a little bit like that dude from Young Black Teenagers, but, you know, was that before or after? And I said, nah, this is original. He was first with that, you know, whatever. So we went back and forth, back and forth. Then he asked me, he said, listen, man, I'm convinced, I'm happy. If it was up to me, I'd bring him to meet Marshall. He said, but I don't hear a single. Do you have a single? So I had just recorded a song for my mom called All I Can Say. And on All I Can Say, it had all the qualities people look at. Like, it was me talking about my mom in a positive light, you know, thanking her for everything she did as a single mom, all the struggle we went through. I had, which was a big part of some of my devastating, you know, derailments, was my closest aunt passed away and my grandmother passed away, who was my second mother, within 6 months of each other. Then I had my mom, who was a single mom, and then I told you about had to take me to North Carolina, and then we came back and whatever. So he said, send me that track. So back in the day, the way you did things, you had to go to the studio. You didn't just go, you know, on your computer and print it out or whatever. At least I didn't, you know. And at the time, the internet was just starting to pop to where it was fast enough to where you could download some songs and not be there for a weekend. You know what I mean? So I went to the studio. I got my man to I called him up. I said, put my new joints on a CD. I gotta get right to FedEx. I didn't even listen to it. I zipped over there. All the stuff I was working on, which subsequently became, because of the blackballing that had happened, all these tracks that would have been a dope debut album became later on my mixtape, you know. And I got the CD, put it in FedEx, send it up there, gave it a few days. I didn't want to be too thirsty. I called the dude up, who, by the way, was like And I'm not even tooting myself or, patting myself on the back like I'm the second coming of Christ. But when it came to that A&R, I swear to you, this dude, you would think that I was the second coming of Christ. This dude felt like he found the next, I know what they're thinking, but as an MC though, because across the board, I would be accepted across the board because I already was. You know what I mean? There was no, like the argument with Eminem. Who's bumping Eminem in their car? Who's doing it? There was no argument with mine. People will be bumping mine because people can relate to what I was saying, be it the hustling aspect, the I love my mom, not I hate my mom aspect,
Right.
everything.
Right.
I mail it out. This dude says to me, "Are you crazy?" Now, mind you, this dude thought I was the second coming, the last conversation. Now he says to me, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "I'm missing the boat." Now, I used to talk to this guy like I was my manager. Like I used to do my voice different. You know what I mean? Like I talked to him about me, but I was still me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, I really don't understand. I'm a little perplexed here. Like what's going on? And he said, you would actually bite, and this is an exact word, you would actually bite the hand that feeds you before he's even feeding you? What is your guy, brain dead? And I said, I'm still missing the boat. And he said, this song that's on here, Inquiring Minds, you're dissing the guy you're trying to get a deal with. I don't understand the logic. Do you think because he came up as a battle MC, he would think this is cute? And I said, oh, we didn't mean to put that on there. And I tried to explain it. He wasn't having it. And then he says to me, listen, lose my number. This ain't happening. Your dude is garbage. Now, mind you, he loved me 3 days ago, but now he's being loyal. He's a loyal dude. But then he says he's garbage. Eminem will bury him. Now, listen, I didn't come up in the battle circuit, but I was in millions of ciphers that turned into battles, if you know what I mean. Not in the present day battle circuit the way they do it, but in a cipher, it could turn into a battle without it starting as a battle. So I've done that, and I know my pen was nice, and my freestyle skills was up. So I got pissed off. I smoked the blunt. I went right to the studio. My man let me right in. The Gods was in there that I knew. He took a seat. He said, I'm going to go ahead and write. I put on a track that, whatever instrumental he had queued up. I think it was the New York beat that Ja Rule and Fat Joe and Jadakiss, we're from New York. And I put that on, and I freestyled more than half of the first verse. No bullshit.
Okay.
And then the Gods in there was like losing their minds. You would think that I was at a concert. Like if you saw them, like I was behind the glass, they was all up there going crazy. And I said, oh, okay. So I got out, let them finish. I finished the track, and I put it out. And I did the same thing. And this had really not too much to do with Eminem or Dre or 50 or any of those people. But 30 years later, or even back then, they should have understood. If it wasn't for the politics that nobody at the hierarchy of whoever got me blackballed, because it was a fact I got blackballed for over 4 years. You know what I mean? I went to record deals, one after another, that told me, we can't sign you. You know what I mean? Because of these tracks. So anyway, I was like, beside myself. So we put the song out. It was everywhere. Then a popular radio station hit us up and said, hey, we want to play this on our show. Can we play it on the show? And I said, absolutely. And I said, but we're gonna whip up an original version. All the lyrics were the same, but we whipped up an original version, and we went to the radio station, and they had again, from the same way a lot of people, including Eminem, got his deal, somebody in the street gave the dude at the radio station a copy of this diss track. It was called Shady Biz. And now these people also remembered that Inquiring Minds song. And they said, whoa. He said, so you're the dude that did that. And, you know, with the Red Cafe, and you whipped up the hook. And I was like, yeah. It played on the radio station for over a month and a half. You know, a popular radio station. So you can imagine it was buzzing everywhere. This track was buzzing everywhere. In the streets, everywhere. People were putting on mixtapes. We would go up and we would go to New York and we'd hear it playing like with people driving by. You know what I mean? So we were like, oh, okay. Then we get a phone call and the dude at the radio station says, listen, we cannot play that song again. We had to pull it, or our host will never see another Interscope artist as long as we live. So it's a done deal. You had a nice run. And by the way, it's a popular song. We hope you don't get shot. That's what they said when they heard the, you know, hearing the lyrics, you know, because I was just on some, you know, kind of angry, but like, you know, life kicking you while you're down, you almost, and then you don't have a deal, and then you're, you know, they're blackballing you. It's just like you were just angry. So I just went in and I was just, that's what it became. And so when that, you know, when that happened, I said, you know what? In my mind, I still didn't understand the politics of it. So I had 3 record deals with 3 different labels based on those tracks I told you about. The song with my mom, you know, I had another song called I Don't Know, which was, you know, later on, you know, which was my big thrill, you know, even though he's younger. Mac Miller's favorite song off my mixtape was I Don't Know. So that song was on there. Big ups again to DJ Skills. I had my scratching on there. I had the dope beats. It was diverse, you know. So I went to these record labels and they were like, I was thinking it was no big deal. So when they said, have you had any of these played on the radio? And of course I'm like, no, but I did have this other song, which I guess, and I downplayed it, which I guess you could say was dissing Eminem, you know, that was playing for a month and a half, you know, and they, you know, it backfired. They said, oh, that's you? And they said, have a nice day. So the next one, same thing, have a nice day. So then I kind of caught on. And by the third one, I was just like, fuck it, I'm signing. So they had the contract out on the table. They were playing the song, and the girl that was the junior A&R girl, it made me feel really good because it felt like I was looking at my daughter. Because in that, not in age and all that, but in that she knew every word of my songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My daughter was like that because I'm always playing my stuff. Her and her friends knew all my songs from that. This girl was singing everything. I'm a shoe in here. This girl loves me. They gave me the contract. Now, when you're signing a contract, you know, for those that don't know, you go through and if you want to take it to a lawyer, you could do that. But most people, like me, like most people, they're just going to sign right on the dot because they want that ink on there right now. So you go ahead and you sign, and then there's a bunch of spots you have to initial. So the contract was fairly thick, and all the signatures were done. I just had to go back and initial, or vice versa. Well, I was doing my thing, and the dude's talking to me while the girl's listening to the song and whatever, you know. And the dude was like, this is my favorite song. I got a song called Hip Hop Music, which is paying homage to hip hop. And I'm going through all the, you know, different things, you know, from Groove Be Chill to the clips. I mentioned the clips in there. Like, you know, And he was like, I can't believe that none of this was played on the radio. I just can't believe it. You know what I mean? And I said, he said, nothing? He said, you got nothing? And, you know, the way he kept saying it made me feel like we were friends. And I was halfway through signing this shit. So I was like, well, since you mentioned, and he was like, so what do you think will happen if it came down to you or Eminem? Who do you think would win? Because that's what always happens too when you're a white rapper. You know, they wouldn't say back then anyway. They wouldn't say, what do you think would happen with you and, you know, Nas or you and Jay-Z or you and this? It's always you and another white guy. Like, what would happen if you and the other white guy, you know? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'd like to have a conversation, but since you mentioned it, and I told him, and he came up to me right then and there, grabbed the contract while I was signing, and kind of did this, like little at a time, and pulled the contract, and he says, listen, let me go talk to somebody. I'm just going to stop you right there. Let me just go talk to somebody. I'm going to be right back. And then, you know, the girl in the seat, you know, he's like, all right, we'll be back. You know, I won't turn the record off. He goes back and he comes back and he says, listen, not going to happen. He goes, I wish you all the best. He said, you know, he says, as a matter of fact, you know, you work on some other material. You want to give a call back, you know, but I just found out, you know, and this is what he told me. I just found out that our budget for this fiscal year, and rather than have you shelved, you know, and have you, you know, kind of disgruntled or whatever, we'd rather you be able to keep your options open. We don't want to tie you up. And, you know, we'll you know, I don't know if he said you call us or we'll call you, but whatever. So that was a wrap with that whole shady biz. And after that, it was a long time. And unfortunately, my man Lamik got caught in that bullshit too, because as the figurehead shopping this around, you know, that he got caught up in that. That's why that's what I believe why, for all the people that was thrilled with what was going on with that, they didn't pick up his project, you know?
Oh, dang. So are you still much of a freestyler?
I'm not too much anymore, because whoever says if you could do it, you could do it, you know, it's like riding a bike. It's really not. Like, back then, just to give you an idea, we would, me and my man Sinner, and he could attest to this, we would freestyle from Jersey to New York, and then around the streets of New York, and then most of the time we'd get in ciphers and do some more freestyling, and then we'd freestyle home. So, and every day when I was in it, you know, like in it, you know, and before, you know, everything the world comes crashing down, and then other things get involved where you're like, you know, taking hiatuses and whatever. You know, if you don't do it all the time, I relate it to speaking Spanish. Like, you or I could learn how to speak Spanish right now. And if we had somebody in our house that spoke Spanish, we would learn it and pick it up, and we'd be pretty fluent when we went on our trip to Mexico. You know what I mean? Or wherever we went.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you don't do it every day, and you're not freestyling every day, you know, it's just not. I mean, there's times when I'll hear a track or whatever, and I'll put it on, and I'll freestyle some bars, but nothing of the caliber that we were, you know, all those years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna see if you wanted to freestyle real quick.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, normally I'd be like, you know, but I'll be honest with you, it would probably be ass. I'm not gonna lie to you or anybody watching.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's all right. No, I don't want to put anyone in an awkward position.
But if it wasn't ass, for you, I'd do it. But I also had this. There was a thing that me and Sinner, but I pretty much got singled out more than Sinner. He'll even tell you that, as the white guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's hear you up. And I called it the monkey in the music box. And what that is at any given time, you had to rap on command. You know what I mean? And it was always the white guy. It was always me. You know what I mean? They were pleasantly surprised when I did rap, but, you know, and a lot of them were like, oh, man, but it got to the point where 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years of rap on command, rap on command, rap on command. I'm like, you know, got to the point where even nowadays, there was a couple shows that I was asked to be on, but they were mostly like these, you know, like you said, these freestyle shows. I won't mention the shows that invited me, but and these were a couple of pretty big shows where you go there and you go, and I'm not talking, because if I did that, I would do freestyling. I wouldn't do what a lot of these cats do and go there and they're reading it off their phone or they got something written, memorized, and, you know, I would go there and I would, you know, freestyle, you know what I mean? But I got to the point where I was like no longer rapping on command, that I feel like, granted, like the one guy said, yeah, you might have did this and that and the other thing, because people are in your face with it. Like I can be in your face with my facts, but they can come back with their rebuttals. And I respect that. But they're like, yeah, you might have done this and that and the other thing, and you might have been this and that and the other thing, but nobody knows you now. You know what I mean? Like, and I know what he's saying, not nobody, but like the masses don't know me now. And I get it. But my answer to that is, granted, most of my performances, unlike today where everything is televised on a phone, so somebody might have a bunch of clips today. There was nobody walking around back then with a camera, with a video camera. Most of the time, unless you planned it and you brought it, you know, there was some really dope stuff that happened. I'm talking about in hip-hop history in my life, that if I had a video camera, I would cherish the tape right now. Black Thought freestyling, you know, Supernatural, Most Def, like in a cypher freestyling, like, you know what I mean? Me actually really having like half of Washington Square Park going nuts on our little cypher thing and whatever, but some of it wasn't recorded. But the stuff that I do got out, I'm like, listen, if you want to hear me, there's enough stuff now from whenever it's from on the internet now that you can listen to now, that I don't gotta rap right now.
Well, that's
in your face.
I think people like to hear it live because they know it's like off the, you know, off the dome, as they say, or whatever. But I don't ask everybody to freestyle. I would never like. I would never expect anybody to do it because. And this is a clip of Vince Staples talking about why he doesn't freestyle. Just real quick. You follow him?
Remember them? I ain't gonna say it.
Tim Westwood?
You know who Vince Staples is, right?
Yeah, I know who Vince.
Okay, I mean, you know who Mac Miller is, so yeah, they were like.
I wasn't Tim Westwood. I know Tim Westwood. See, that's why I was really mad, low key, because Tim Westwood only won a 16, and he gonna ask you want to do it again? Was that good enough? Blah blah type. You know what I mean? This nigga, well, I don't know what cut it was.
Sloth?
I think the chubby nigga.
Yeah.
Cut on like 8 beats. I'm like, why am I rapping still? Cause like I'm looking at this Corey like we fucking songs up now. I don't got nothing else. I ain't finna sit and freestyle. Got me rapping, cause I'm not finna be sitting there rapping for no white man for no hour, man. That's the auction block. But I ain't even gonna front. We was in London or something.
Yeah, and he's spoken on this before, different, you know, platforms and stuff. About he feels like there's no other genre where they ask you to do that. You know, just like they don't ask, like you said, Taylor Swift as an example, her to play or make up a song on command. You know, but some people really enjoy the sport of it. So
yeah,
I wasn't sure.
Well, like I said, and I hope I didn't offend you by saying I don't do that.
No.
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, and I'm telling you, for you, because I do respect you. I do respect your platform. I do appreciate you, as many of the others that have been inviting me on, and I've said this in the past. You know, I hope it happens. I don't know if it will happen. I hope it happens. But anybody that supports me now, especially now, because as if my past wasn't bad enough, my present isn't great either. You know what I mean? Like, and again, my daughter kills me by saying, stop putting me on blast on every show you go on. I don't want to. But the fact of the matter is, I am so proud of my daughter. That's why I mention it. And I'm not looking for her to cue the violins, but my granddaughter, my second daughter had my first granddaughter. And my granddaughter was born with craniocentesis. She's 10 years old. She's had 9 operations already. She's got to have another one when she turns 11 or 12. And if that wasn't bad enough to think about for my daughter got a brain tumor. So she got surgery. They took it out. They thought they got it all. They didn't get it all because insurance doesn't allow them to monitor her every month. They have to wait 6 months after a surgery to look at her again. When she went back in, it came back worse than it was the first time. Now she lives with incredible headaches, the sweats, skin issues, and they dropped her insurance. You know what I mean? So there's that.
Do you have a GoFundMe for either of these or both?
Once upon a time, we did one for my granddaughter. My daughter is kind of too proud for it. In the beginning, we did, but my daughter said, listen, I'd rather not because some people, are questioning, hey, why don't she do it herself? She's, got this occupation or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, that's just us two. We're proud, she gets it from me. We're proud, whatever, but my daughter's also got student loans that are like $500,000. You know what I mean? It's like insanity. So my point is to get off of that. Then my mom's got crucial lupus. I just had 2 surgeries myself. I got hurt and I had 2 surgeries. So this is my life. So my point is for somebody like you that responds to my stuff, you do look at my stuff, you do like certain things, you do, say, hey, yeah, come on the show. You know what I mean? I appreciate that so much that God willing, unlike Taylor Swift and all these other people that give these bullshit speeches about how they appreciate people and they can't even follow people. The simplest thing in the world to follow somebody. I, on the other hand, everybody that supports me, you watch and see if it happens, which given my world, it probably won't. But if it does, all of you will be thanked before God. You know what I mean? Because that's the way I feel about all of you. Even sitting here with you, even you saying, hey, I like that song. When I came out with, I forget what song it was, you said, hey, I really like that song. It's catchy. You know what I mean? And that meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like just something simple like that. Like you don't gotta, oh my God, you're the greatest ever. I don't need that. Just the fact that you took the time, even if it was a like, even if it was just a follow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You following me means that at some point you may get to see my greatest invention. But if you're not following me, you will never see that. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's just the way this internet stuff is. And everybody says like Lizzo and everybody else, oh, with the internet and this, that, and the other, you don't need to know anybody. You can be an overnight success. Listen, that is very true. But the only difference between the internet now and the way we came up back in the day where you absolutely positively had to know somebody is you still need to know somebody. And there's only 0.5% that makes it. Like when she says, yeah, I saw a girl go on TikTok and the next week she was at the Billboard Awards. Listen, that is 0.5%, not even, you know what I mean? And I was on, because I do acting too, but like I said, with everything going on, I budget where I can budget. I'm outside when I'm outside, but I was in Ride Along 2 as an extra. And I was on the set, and in between takes, I would have conversations with Ice Cube and Kevin Hart. And Ken Jeong, I almost had a conversation with Ken Jeong. You know who Ken Jeong is? I don't know and this makes me look like an asshole on your show.
No. Go ahead.
The appropriate nationality or race. He's the guy that, put it this way, he's the guy that jumps out the trunk in The Hangover. And he's a judge on The Masked Singer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe he's Korean. I'm not sure 100%.
Anyway, I don't know. I didn't know what to say. But anyway, he almost talked to me, but then he was on the phone like nonstop. You know what I mean? So I was talking to Kevin Hart most of the time for the first couple of days, and Ice Cube the next couple of days. Even Kevin Hart, I was sitting there and I was talking to Kevin Hart, and this was my biggest kick in the ass that to this day, well, one of many, put it that way, but this was a big one. Talking to Kevin Hart, who was a really, really cool dude, sat there, he talked to me, he was talking about the industry, he was talking about my life, I was telling him that, what I did and what I couldn't do, and the roles that I had to lose because of deaths in the family or something happening, or I chose custody of my 4 kids over a couple record deals one time. And, I just was telling him his life and my life, and then he got into the internet talk. Now, this was when Ride Along 2 was out, which I don't know what year it was. I'm sure we can Google it, but the internet was in well swing. So he was like, listen, everybody talks about the internet. And he said, that's not for everybody. Everybody swears it's for everybody. Like, if you don't get discovered now, you must suck. Like, a lot of people told him that. Like, the internet's out there. If you don't get signed tomorrow, you must not have any talent. And he was like, that's just bullshit. He said, because him or me, like himself, and he said, he was like, listen, man, I think you got talent, man. You got a talent. He said, matter of fact, he said, I'm gonna have my assistant give you her number, and I want you to give me a call when this is all said and done. When we're off this set. He said, I heard them talking, because Will Packer and Tim Story, the 2 guys that were the directors and producers on the movie, I'm just like I said with Serge, I'm just a joke. I'm a clown. And it might be at the time where people might not want you joking, but I'm just joking. And people take it that way. And they called me the rest of the shoot. They were calling me, the one guy called me Mr. Energy, and the other guy called me Mr. Electric. You know what I mean? That's what the 2 big guys on the movie. And so Kevin Hart must have heard that, and then talking to me, and I told him a lot of the different things in my life, and he was going to give me, and I lost her number. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
Kevin
what
Hart,
he said
if you're
was,
watching.
What's that?
It was said of Kevin Hart, if you're watching, he needs that number. Was it
Yeah,
Kevin Hart?
I always say to him all the time, hey, Kev, you remember me, man? But
sure
he
he does.
did. He said to me on this set, he said, listen, he said, no matter what people say to you, never get discouraged, And I always also told him that the acting thing, is, what people are telling me is the acting thing is more of a reality than the rapping thing, because rapping, and again, we talked about this as well in those clips. Rap, hip hop is the only genre in the world that is frowned upon after you turn 30. You're not supposed, even if you're a legend, after 30, you're supposed to drop it. And if you're still doing it, give it up. You're 50 years. How many jokes do you see on the internet? You're 50 years old. Give it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I disagree. I don't think that's the case anymore.
What's that?
I said I don't think that's the case anymore.
With who?
with rap because as time progresses, I see more and more people that are over 30 just starting to get into it, etc.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you as a person that's, I want to consider in the know, but to the average person on the street, you know what I mean? It's
Well, I think it's becoming more accepted. It's becoming more accepted. Like
you think in hip hop,
I do, I do.
I see it being accepted. You know, when Jelly Roll, gets a deal, or
I don't think
when
Jelly Roll
some other
started the culture.
rocker gets a deal, or country guy. But as far as hip hop, like even
Mhm.
just the other day, Cameron or actually it was Mace. Cameron and Mace got their show, and Mace was
Yeah.
saying, "Listen, if you're 50 years old and you're still running around with a demo tape, and they were joking around about it. They were like,
Well,
listen,
yeah, but they're
they were
older.
like, give it up. Your,
They're
your
older.
wife needs insurance. I mean, it was very funny, and I don't
Facts.
necessarily think that really applies to me exactly what he was saying, because I'm not starting from ground one right now. I at least have some history and a catalog and the know-how and the love of the culture and the know-how of the business. So it's a little different than if I just wanted to woke up today and said I'm going to do it. But
Yeah.
I still feel like, but what he was saying was, he was like, I said, it's a little different for the acting than for the hip hop. But he said, no, he said, you know what? Across the board, I'm going to let you know. And I could tell. He said, and he was like, that's when he said, hey, come here. Give me your number. And they wrote the number down. I put it in my pocket. I lost it at the W. I was staying at the W. I lost it somewhere at the W. I do know where I lost it. But
10 years ago.
he was like, all you need, he said, all you need is the right person, and I know that's a big ask. He said, I know that in my own life. He said, it's a big ask, finding that person, because all you need is the person to get you in the room. Because even if, these people out here and they make it seem like it's the end all be all, these people, these rappers and everybody else, it's all smoke and mirrors out here. These rappers that are independent, and they make it look like to the world that they're never going to go hungry again. When in actuality, that's what gets them more popularity, because if they're showing money and they're showing a rented Lamborghini and they're showing a car, and I'm not saying it's everybody. I know some of them actually got money like that, but most of the people that make it, they need a manager to get them in the doors. And none of these independent, you can't tell me one independent person that's as big as, a Jay-Z, a Nas, or an Eminem, because they've got the powerhouse behind them. And you need that powerhouse nowadays to really make it. You know what I mean?
That applies to a lot of things. Yeah.
What's that?
I said that applies to a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, for everything. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah. So anyway, so that was the big, ouch and whatever. But that's how I feel about anybody out there that supports me. And for the longest time, on top of everything else that was going on, I have done in my career. I have probably done over 100 features for people, and I'm talking about from people that just started rapping yesterday, and I just thought they were good people and they loved hip hop, so I did it, to people overseas in South Africa, to the UK, to you name it, to a DJ that's a friend of the DJ that works for Post Malone that says, hey, we want to do a little flip up of this song of Post, so can you be on this track and this, that? And I've never asked for a penny in my life. Never asked for a penny. And on top of that, I used to follow every single person that would follow me. And some people that didn't follow me yet, I would follow them. I would reply to every single person. And to this day, I pretty much do the same. Now, a lot of people say, well, of course you can do that. You've got nobody. Well, once upon a time, I didn't have 2,000 followers forever. I had a lot. I just had an international hacker destroy my social media presence, hacking into me and going to people like Tashina Arnold or Ronrico Lee, who are celebrities that were following me and actually talked to me, and they were trying to sell them Bitcoin, but it looked like me. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't just hack me. He hacked my account and was using it as if it was me. And there was nothing I could do about it. You know what I mean? I tried to talk to, so I lost all the people. So now I still will follow every single person that follows me. But again, when people say, well, you don't have my last argument to that is I do it now. It's not easy for me, even with a couple thousand people. I realize how hard it is, and I understand the argument. But if you're making $1 billion, if you're Taylor Swift, and you're spending all the money you're spending to make sure that you sell out every tour and every endorsement you get and the halftime show and all that, you have enough money to pay some out of work social media person to run your social media and follow everybody. Or at the very least, you can follow. Honestly, and I keep asking somebody for the answer to this. Nobody's giving me the answer yet. Is it me? If all these celebrities followed everybody, let's just hypothetically say, forget the cool factor that I don't follow nobody, that makes me look more popular or elusive and makes people want me more because they don't follow anybody. I say bullshit to that because there's a lot of people going through some really bad shit like myself right now, and them waking up one morning and Taylor Swift is following them. That's like 6 Christmases in a row. That's like, their father that just died, their mother that just died, their aunt that just died. It's not making everything right with the world, but it softens the blow a little bit knowing that Taylor Swift cared enough to follow you. And they can't sit there and the thing that gets me is if you're not gonna, then shut the fuck up and stop giving these bullshit, sappy speeches and no disrespect or shade. Well, I guess it is a little shade. If I had to listen to one more fucking Lizzo speech about how she loves people and she's like Christ on a cross for fans worldwide, and she's not following nobody, and there's people in documentaries that say, all I wanted was a signature from Lizzo and she snubbed me. You know what I mean? Like, stop it. You know what I mean? You've got enough money at this point in time when you're going to all these awards all the time and you're on every magazine cover and you're doing every podcast and whatever, you're pretty well set to where if you followed everybody that's following you, you would still be okay for another 100 years. You know what I mean? So that's my last take on that, where I love every one of the people, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, that cares about me, and not that it means more, but because it's so taboo is why I really thank the celebrities and my hip-hop legends that taught me how to do this or got me through some tough times. As I don't ever use the word fan, but for all intents and purposes, as a fan, because I feel like even for people that follow me, I call them either supporters or friends. Because if you're supporting my dream, you're not, I consider a fan like, I don't know, like not a derogatory term, but almost like a slave that almost falls into supporting me. Like, but if you're helping me get my dream, you're either a friend. If you're a diehard supporter, you're my friend. Like, you're supporting me, you're my friend. And if you're just an avid follower or whatever, you're a supporter. You're not a fan to me. But these people, they just get my goat, man. And every one of the people that have my back, I love. And the superstars, where it's taboo to do that for all the reasons I just said, the fact that they're being the change, the Curtis Blows, the Task from the Alcoholics, the do-it-all from Lords of the Underground, the Tashina Arnolds, all these people that, you know, at least, I mean, there was a lot more of the celebrity superstars that were following me before the hacker, but a lot of them started coming back, and I hope to get them back, you know, because it's hard to let them know, hey, it's really me, it's not a hacker anymore. But, you know, I mean, just the other day, you know, I was talking to Young Hump from Digital Underground. And I love Digital Underground. I will always love Digital Underground. Rest in peace, Shock G. Because they bring happiness to the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they are positive. And Shock G, I met him one time, but just, even if I didn't ever meet him, just through his music and his interviews, he's just such a ray of light. Like, he's such a positive, you know, like a positive dude, man.
Yeah.
And it kind of, and I don't know all the guys, so, you know, whatever, you know, behind the scenes, other people, but me as, you know, the supporter out here watching from afar, you know, they all exude like that positive energy that Shock had. Like, it just, you know, like if they say, it comes from the head and trickles down. Like, it trickled down, and they spent, you know, their life together from kids to their adulthood. So that's just who they are now. Even where, you know, Money B, he didn't have to. He did the coolest, like, video, man. Like, I got choked up, man, just seeing it. And I know that, you know, I got to talk about that whole, you know, following thing. You know, I have people, you know, I call them my assistants, you know. They're just coochie cool with me. You know, a couple people that I trust with my passwords, I trust with my, and they do a lot of my social media stuff, and they know what I would say and what I wouldn't say. They know what I would allow to be said and not said. I try to tell them, you know, kind of cut back on the spamming of people, if that's what you want to call it these days. But what people don't understand with that, and it's not just because, you know, my people do it, but other people do it, it's the internet. And when you are so holier than thou that you will never see me unless I'm up in your posts saying, hey, look at me, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, how, once they, you know, I'm told once you know who I am, then okay, point taken. But how will you know who I am? You know, and there's a lot of history that goes in. And case in point, my people reached out, and it just so happens that they got in Money B's ear, and he said, well, let me check this motherfucker out. You know what I mean? Let me see what's what. You know what I mean? Because he, of course, loves Shock G. He hears about a dude that really loves Shock G. These are good dudes. So he looked at my stuff, and he said, oh, shit, look at this. And he looks at another video where, you know, I actually might have done a little freestyling and put some Easter eggs in there, you know? And he was like, drop the dopest drop/video with kind words. And it meant a lot. You know what I mean? And to this day, it means a lot. And I said that. I say it to Cool DJ Red Alert. I said it to Do It All, Lord Jazz. I mean, not the name drop, but like anybody and everybody. Redman that has dropped a couple drops for me, videos for me. Dougie Fresh, you know, Roxanne Shante. You know, it means the world to me. And I got to be honest with you. I haven't won a Grammy, and odds are I probably never will at this stage of the game. You know, I can keep my fingers crossed and pray to God every night, you know, that things get better. But these people following me means more than a Grammy to me.
Yeah,
you know, people that I looked up to my
Grammys.
whole life. And I started out as a peer. You know, that's the whole thing that people don't get. At my age, when I say superstars, it's not like nowadays there's an 8-year-old girl that loves Taylor Swift. That's something different. I was a peer to these people. You know what I mean? Like, if things would have gone a different way for me, I could be doing shows with them. I could be going to the Grammys with them. I could be, you know what I mean? I could be in the same conversations. But that's what makes it even better. We started out as peers. Most of them are just slightly older than me. But I look up to them for getting me through my bad times. And that's more than a Grammy to me, especially Cool DJ Red Alert. Because I always say, you know, cool DJ Red Alert's my Lord and Savior. You know what I mean? Because, you know, back in the day when hip hop was not as prevalent, that was my big dose of hip hop. That was who I knew who the Crash Crew was, who the Crash Cold Crush was, who, you know, the new Curtis Blow joint, the Fearless 4 plus one more, like all these pioneers. That's how I knew who they were, because Red Alert, you know, and Chuck Leonard and Mr. Magic and Marley Marl too. But for me, it, you know, I listened to them too, but it was 100%. I've got tapes and tapes and tapes of Cool DJ Red Alert. You know what I mean? And so, you know, he means everything to me. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure. Well, on that note, I probably got to wrap it up. Yeah, because it's getting close to 10 where I am.
yeah.
But it was really enlightening having you on the show, and definitely, you know, you have a lot of stories to tell. Everybody can follow you on Instagram, you know, Mikey Barslow, look it up, and YouTube, same. I put links in the description. Is there anything else you wanted to shout out or?
Well, basically just that. I mean, we got like the real quick. I just want to say, like you were so nice enough to, and that's the other thing, which I thought was super dope of you, because you know a lot of people might have done the other things, follow me, support me, but hey, you know, whatever. But I did send them a bunch of stuff, and they said it to me, but they never publicly said, hey, that was really dope of you.
No, it was dope of you to send all that stuff. It was a great
You
little
know, that was really dope. And for me, it was just, I want, for the people that don't know, it's kind of like, if you're interested, look, here it is, because, you know, these CDs, and that's what I want to show people. There's all these CDs, and you could see them on, you know, Rap Yard, on the wall there on the post. You could see it on mine, because she was nice enough to thank me and post all the stuff.
I mean, you were nice enough to send it for sure.
Well, that was really dope. I mean, that was really dope for you to do that. And so these CDs represent the stuff from my past that I could salvage. Because like I said, a lot of it took a walk. You know what I mean? Some of it I have on reels, and a lot of people, I won't get into that story. Once upon a time, we recorded on reels, you know, and and I got a lot of stuff on that. But you know, I'm not going through the expense and the time and all that to until maybe if I make it, I'll do a special for all the people that supported me. Like, you know, here's my early stuff. But real quick, I'll tell you one very, very quick story. These CDs represent, like I said, that stuff. But once upon a time, when there was sites like Dat Piff where you could put your mixtapes on, and that's where everybody went for their mixtapes, I put it on several things. And I noticed that my mixtapes were doing very well. Then celebrities, like, not celebrities, but like Cool DJ Red Alert, Mac Miller, and this person and that person started commenting about my mixtapes. Even back then, the people that were. So I said, you know what? They're doing very well. I'm talking about, now granted, it was free. I wasn't getting money on it. So people say, who cares? It's null and void. If you ain't eating off it, who cares? I cared because, you know, on one site, 25,000 people downloaded it and 70,000 streamed it, and so on and so forth. So between the two mixtapes alone, there was about 1 million downloads of those two mixtapes. And then that Piff crashed. People can go, people probably already know. They don't do mixtapes anymore. So I took them off all the other sites that were doing okay, but I said they're doing the best on Dat Piff. So I put them on Dat Piff, and they were really moving. And then it crashed. So now, that being the case, other than like a SoundCloud, that people can go to my SoundCloud and download whatever they see there for free, which there's some other stuff than these, but I got these out there, and now the only reason I'm selling these is because it costs to put them on a CD, and a lot of people were actually asking me for the CD because people like, you know, Taylor Swift and that generation, I keep mentioning her, you know.
Yeah, Taylor Swift, if you're watching, please follow Mikey Barslow.
That's it, you know. She made it cool again to listen to vinyl. She made it cool again.
Taylor Swift?
Apparently, you know, because when she started, I just heard through the grapevine. I'm not confirming, but when she started putting out vinyl, it seemed like that generation of early 20s, late teens, teenagers, you see them buying vinyl. Even my son is like, "Hey, do you got any vinyl that you don't want?" Like, I'm like, vinyl? Like, what happened to the days where I was going to people and saying, "Here's my CD," and these kids would look at me and go, "What would you like me to play this on?" You know what I mean? Like, you know, but a lot of people are saying that. So I signed them, their CDs, and also anybody that happens to get these CDs. And I really only charge, that's what I started to say, I charge for it. Pressing them up, you know, and the artwork and stuff, and the shipping. The shipping costs more than anything. It's outrageous what they're charging for shipping these days. But I also do other things like, you know, the shirts. You know what I mean? Like, we got like a couple other shirts. You know, this one right here. You know, you got the Locomotive Records. You got this one right here. You got the, you know, the Mikey Barslow. Oh, shit. Mikey Barslow here. I don't know if you can see this on the back.
Yeah.
You know, but so if anybody, you know, goes in, it's still not a bad deal. You're getting like 4 CDs, you know, and a shirt for like $50, man. You know, and you know, it's not. I'm not looking to kill nobody. I'm just looking to really cover the costs. I don't want to make money on it, not right now. I want you as a supporter to be walking around, you know, showing my face, you know. But unfortunately, I just can't afford to do stuff like this for free because there's certain things that you do for free, the promotions to the people that have certain, you know, like yourself, like, you know, Lord Jazz, you know, big ups to Lord Jazz, big ups to everybody out there that support me again. I just sent them out. Hopefully, you'll see them rocking it. You know, Lord Jazz, from Lords of the Underground, for those that don't know. He'll be rocking that pretty soon. He's been following me. He's been giving me a lot of kind words. And I would like to say this. I didn't want to sound like a dry snitcher. I didn't want to sound like that. In retrospect, it kind of did sound like that, but it just made me so upset, and it still makes me upset. If MC Search sees this podcast, and here's what I'm saying, Search, man, and I'm saying this, you know, this is an exclusive right here. People don't do this in hip-hop. This is a fact. I also cornered the market on giving people flowers long before they die. I'm that guy. But MC Search, for 40 years, dog, I've been in your corner, said nothing but nice things, kind things, even leading up to that live where you lambasted me. I was on a podcast 2 days before, basically saying you're the Holy Grail. You know, how I got choked up from you sending me that little DM that you sent me with kind words. So for the way that you are, how do you not understand when I said I was joking? I was joking before you did what you did and belittled me in front of all your live and all the people watching and basically made all those people on your live think that Mikey Barslow is a scumbag that you've had problems with before, which is not true. You know, why didn't you ask the dude that you were protecting, but you brought up his salary? I didn't bring it up. I was joking with the dude. You know that, and asked the dude. We were cool the minute it was said. I don't know why you went off the way you did, and I don't know why you didn't come back even after the live and say, okay, now talk to me. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you say that you do to people. You'd rather talk it out than that happen. But that's all I have to say. I don't want to take up any more time. I'm sorry. But it means something to me. And I don't want to sound like a punk or, you know, like some people say, he was like a bitch on there, man, begging, search for, you know, I'm not begging for nothing. I'm just saying, here's a dude that you talk about, you know, give people their flowers while they're alive. I've been doing that before anybody does it. Like, I've been giving everybody their flowers all the time. I think you heard that tonight, especially in hip hop. And Search is one of the guys, more than most, that I've given flowers for 40. And I'm not even talking about 4 days or 4 hours. I'm talking about 40 fucking years. You know what I mean? I've supported this guy, and you know, I even, you know, gotten to, there's some other people that got beef with Search in the business that saw what I was saying about Search, the positive shit, and they got at me and said, listen, you white dudes need to stop sticking together and you need to hear the truth. Of course you're going to believe some lies. He's full of shit. And they were talking about Search. And now that's an avenue I can't go down. That person who's big and all his people, I don't have access to them because I defended Search. So Search, yo, let's talk it out, bro. And listen, Troy, thank you. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties and running over. And
it's all good.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for coming on, Mikey Barslow. Could you do me one favor before we dip out? Could you do me a quick drop? Just say this is Mikey Barslow. You're listening to the Rap Yard podcast.
I'm sorry?
Could you just do me a quick favor and do a drop for me? Just say this is Mikey Barslow, the Rap Yard podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Yo, this is the voice of the underdogs, Mikey Barslow, and you're checking out Rap Yard Podcast.
Dope. Thank you. All right, man.
Take it easy.
And yeah, to you as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.